And we are back. The Premier League is back ahead of Game Week 31, which sees Burnley as the only team with a scheduled double Game Week fixture. Now, before I touch upon the team news, we've already heard from 7 managers. I want to mention a Premier League update which just went live around about 5-10 minutes ago. And they state from the beginning of 2022-23, 5 substitutes will now be allowed in the Premier League. Of course, managers have been pushing for this for a while. And secondly, you may have seen video from myself and Jason with regards to the current COVID protocol within Premier League clubs. From the 4th of April, that will all change. Players will no longer be required to be tested twice weekly, and only those players who present with symptoms will be tested. Now, historically, or certainly in recent times, we've seen a move from those away from those PCR testing, and that will be more around the lateral flow testing. So hopefully, like I say, we should see less player absences through COVID going forward. Now, the team news. Arsenal and Crystal Palace, both of those teams don't actually play until Monday. However, we still have heard from Mikel Arteta and Patrick Vieira ahead of that game. Now, what that means is we do have a few question marks with regards to certain players, and because it's so early ahead of the game, we're unable to give any definitive answers with regards to their ability, but we'll outline them hopefully as we go. Now, the main concern for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal is the fitness of Aaron Ramsdale. Of course, he missed out in Game Week 30 with a muscular problem, referenced as a hip stroke oblique issue by Mikel Arteta before that Game Week 30 kickoff. Now, at the minute, he's still not training with the team. He's only got an outside chance of recovering. I would suggest it may come too soon, and Bert Leno could be thrown back in there between the sticks. But better news with regards to Bukayo Saka. He was released from the England squad after testing positive. He spent a little bit of time in isolation, but he rejoined the group and started training normally from today, Thursday. So that means he'll have plenty of time to get some training in on the pitches, and I would expect him to be fully fit and ready for a start on Monday at Selhurst Park. The other major talking point was the fitness of Tomiyasu. Of course, he's been managing ongoing calf problems, first to the right, then to the left. Hopefully, Mikel Arteta said that they've got the bottom of that, and those recurring issues will potentially stop. In terms of a start, certainly too soon. Cedric Soares looked to retain his place on the right-hand side of defence, but seeing Tomiyasu in and around that matchday squad can only be a good thing. Now, for Crystal Palace, a couple of big updates. Obviously, Wilfried Zaha, he didn't feature against England midweek because of a hamstring issue. There was maybe a little bit lost there in terms of translation. The Ivory Coast coach said it could be up to a grade 2 hamstring problem, or maybe grade 1. You know, the disparity between the two could be potentially huge, anything from 7 days up to possibly even 2 months. However, it looks certainly, if it's on the lower side of that, and maybe even just a little bit of tightness, Patrick Vieira certainly wasn't prepared to rule the winger out of Monday's game, suggesting, like I say, that it certainly is on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of the damage caused. Michael Olise, he picked up a foot issue playing for the French national team under 21s. There's a little bit of inflammation there, and at the time of Thursday's press conference, he was actually receiving treatment to that foot. So at the moment, both have question marks, but like I say, we still have a few additional days recovery that may put them in with a chance. Away from those, Nathan Ferguson and also James McCarthy, they've been out of the first team picture for quite a while. They have rejoined the group in training, and both could potentially come into contention. Now, elsewhere, Watford, they travelled to Anfield in the early kickoff on Saturday, and Roy Hodgson could more or less have a full-strength squad to choose from. Of course, there'll be players who are returning later and need to be assessed from international duty, but as it currently stands, are not aware of any major or serious issues. And Kulo, he's the only player who who's been recently sidelined who could force his way in. He had a hamstring issue that required surgery. Now, Brighton, Quite a big update from Graham Potter. We were expecting to see the likes of Adam Webster and Adam Lallana back in the Seagulls squad. However, this weekend will come too soon. Lallana has been managing that hamstring issue. Wasn't believed to be too serious, but we're approaching what's going to be, over 3 weeks for his return to play. So that's a little bit of a disappointment. And Adam Webster, he's had a couple of minor little setbacks from that groin problem. So he isn't going to come into that back line. I think the Seagulls now are on the back of a 6-game losing streak. So really, they could do with him back in that back line. Fortunately, it looks as if Tariq Lamptey will be available. Although there was no specific mention from Graham Potter, Lamptey was released from the England under 21 squad with what they described as a virus. So we don't therefore know if it was COVID related or not. Alex McAllister, he picked up a knee injury while on international duty. Now, fortunately, that was just contact. So Graham Potter's understanding was that it wasn't too serious and that he should be in contention. But like I say, you can't give any definitive answer at the moment as players are still travelling back and haven't been fully assessed. Now, Leeds, Jess Marsh, fairly comprehensive update. There's a lot going on there. We've got 9 potential sort of question marks ahead of this weekend. Junior Firpo, MCL injury, progressing really well. Initial timeline was 3 to 5 weeks, which would have given him an outside chance of featuring this weekend. That's going to come too soon, so he isn't going to be involved. And also Leo Haralja, if I present that right, he had knee surgery. That went a lot better than initially thought. Initially, we were thinking that it could have been season ending, but he's already back on the training pitches. No good for game week 31, but maybe for game week 32 and beyond. Jamie Shackleton, calf injury, picked up playing for the under-23s. He's progressing. Rafina, he did not travel during the international break for Brazil. He missed out on game week 30, that win at Molineux, because of COVID. That means we should have a fully refreshed winger, which will be good news for Leeds fans, and I'm sure Jess Marsh will be pretty happy with that. So he's absolutely fine. Diego Llorente, also okay. Matthias Klink, concussion, absolutely fine. Meslier, there had been question marks with regards to him, suffered severe bruising following that heavy collision with Raul Jimenez, resulted in the Mexican receiving a second yellow and his dismissal. And that was to his upper thigh and lower torso. Very painful, but hopefully it looks as if there's been no lasting effects with that. Did not train in the first week during the international break, but he has rejoined the group. There may be some protection or additional padding in and around that area to try and minimize the pain. But as far as we know, at this point, Meslier should be absolutely fine. And Patrick Bamford, Jess March, is still hopeful that the striker could play some part again this season. His initial timeline following a rupture of the plantar fascia puts him in around about 6 weeks, which means he may get a game or 2 in before the end of the season. That remains to be seen. I've had a look at the research. Research suggests on a fairly small sample size that average return to play could be in and around that 8 to 9 week mark, which means that 6 weeks could be a little bit optimistic. But also within that study, there were individuals who were back on the pitches within around 4 to 5 weeks. So fingers crossed there for Patrick Bamford. For the Saints, Southampton hoping to get back to winning ways, and that's a big game. Alex McCarthy, he's back in late training with the goalkeepers. However, he's going to have to be going some to try and displace Fraser Forster. Of course, he's been in great form recently, and that resulted in an England call-up. So I firmly expect Forster to retain his place for the very near future. And like I say, Alex McCarthy is only in light training, so he may not even make the bench this weekend. Others mentions, but we're not expecting any notable absentees other than Lianco, who's out long term. Will Smallbone, he tested positive for COVID, but he's back. And also Oriol Romeu had a stomach issue, but he seems to be absolutely fine and he's training without any issues. Now Leicester, another one that I'm going to check because we have a lot going on there as well. On the positive side of things, Mark Albrighton, fine, recovered from an adductor problem. Johnny Evans minutes for Ireland during the international break. Not ready for 90 minutes, but certainly available and in contention. Wesley Fofana, similar, returned off a long-term injury, played in the Europa Conference League before the break, available and in contention. Bad news, Jamie Vardy, he's going to be assessed on a week-to-week basis after picking up a knee injury, not long after returning from that hamstring problem. Now, this weekend's going to be too soon. We're maybe looking at possibly 7 to 14 days for Jamie Vardy. But like I say, those decisions will be made game week to game week. I suggest that maybe it's Kelechi Iheanacho that keeps his place ahead of Patson Daka. There are also question marks. He wasn't categorically ruled out by Brendan Rodgers, but Luke Thomas, he picked up a hamstring issue playing for the England under-21s, and he is a serious doubt for this weekend. I don't think he will make it. And Wilfred Ndidi, confirmation, they did suspect this, that the MCL injury that he suffered prior to the break, that will keep him out probably until June. So he's now targeting a return for pre-season training. He's had surgery on that one. So that's quite a severe grade 3 tear. Elsewhere, who have we got? I think we're more or less covered. Other main talking points, so like I say, we're waiting to hear from managers. Trent Alexander-Arnold this weekend. Going to be too soon, that early kickoff. He's said to be targeting Manchester City, so fingers crossed for Liverpool supporters. Also, just to clear up a little bit of, I suppose, misinformation or something that was lost in translation with regards to Dubravka, the Newcastle United goalkeeper. Widely reported that he was released from the Slovakia squad due to angina and a problem with his heart. Now, I've since done a little bit of digging around, and I'm told that isn't the case. It's more of a virus, and that's why he was released. So there's certainly nothing sinister or too severe about that. He will be assessed ahead of this weekend's game against Tottenham. Carl Darlow is on standby to deputise for him, but I think Martin Dubravka could return without any issues. We will hear from Eddie Howe on Friday morning. So that is your Thursday update. Of course, we'll have another one on Friday. If you have any questions, please pop them in the comments box below. And if you want to know who's available and who's not, check out my timeline at Ben Dinnery or log on to the premierinjuries.com website, and hopefully you'll find out everything that you need to know.